In a sterile city of the future, a bioengineer makes a secret confession. She is the one who released the strange living light that now haunts the parks at night.
Accessing archive file. Series. Future confession tapes. Personal transmission received. Some truths aren't meant to be remembered.
The record light is on. I don't know why I'm doing this. It feels necessary. A final balancing of the books. My name is Alara Vance, and for the last 7 years, I was a senior bioengineer at the Civic Purity Division. My specialization was in atmospheric filtration lichens and polymer grafted flora. Essentially, I made sure the city's green spaces were clean, predictable, and perfectly sterile. The trees in the public squares, their bark coated in a smooth, self-cleaning sheen that prevented anything from growing on them, that was my team. The grass, a synthetic protein weave that never grew, never died, and was washed nightly by nutrient mists. Also, my work. We were very good at our jobs. Too good. We engineered out the dirt, the decay, the chaos. We engineered out life in its truest sense. We traded wilderness for a clean room the size of a metropolis. I remember walking home from the lab, night after night, under the cold, white glare of the orbital lamps. They mimicked the sun, then the moon, on a perfect 24-hour cycle. There are no clouds in our sky, so there are no surprise shadows, no unexpected patterns of light. Everything is calculated. Everything is beige. Not in color, but in spirit. It's a perfect, sterile, soul-crushingly reliable beige. The thought began as a flicker. A bit of professional curiosity. I was working on a deep-sea extremophile, a species of kelp that survived near hydrothermal vents. Its entire structure was a network of bioluminescent capillaries. It glowed with a soft blue-green light, a byproduct of its metabolic process. It was beautiful, in a functional, alien way, a light that asked for nothing. It wasn't for seeing, it was just for being. The idea came to me then, not fully formed, but as a question. What if something in our perfect city just was? What if there was a light that wasn't on a timer, a light that grew? My work gave me access to the city's entire genomic library. It gave me access to spore synthesizers, gene splicers, viral vectors, all the tools of a god, used in the service of tidiness. The temptation was quiet. It wasn't a rebellion, not at first. It was more like a private joke, a piece of art only I would understand. I started small. In a quarantined section of my home lab, I began to cross the genes. I took the luminance from the deep-sea kelp, its soft, ethereal glow, and tried to weave it into something terrestrial, something humble. I chose moss, Bryophyta, the most resilient, unassuming family of organisms I could think of. It asks for so little, a bit of moisture, a sliver of shade. It grows in the cracks. It thrives where other things can't. It felt right. The first few generations failed. They either didn't glow, or they glowed and died, their metabolism burning them out. Some just turned into a gray, inert sludge. Bioengineering is mostly failure. It's 99% sludge and 1% miracle. But I was patient. This was my project, my secret. I worked on it after hours, the city humming its perfect, monotonous tune outside my window. I called it Aethelfax. An old name. It means noble mane or shining hair. It felt poetic. It was for me. Just for me. Then, one night, it happened. Generation 1138, a patch of moss in a petri dish, no larger than my thumbnail, began to emit a steady, gentle pulse. It wasn't blue like the kelp. The splicing had changed it. It was a pale, silvery gold, like captured starlight. I sat there for hours, just watching it. The only light in the room. It didn't flicker. It breathed, a slow, rhythmic cycle of brightening and softening. It was alive, and it was beautiful. The next step was the hardest, releasing it. This was no longer a private joke. This was an act of, well, they call it bio-vandalism, a Class 1 felony, corrupting the pristine civic ecosystem. I could lose everything: my career, my home, my freedom, for a patch of glowing moss. And yet, the thought of that perfect, sterile city out there under its cold, predictable lights, and the thought of this tiny, living star in my lab, the choice felt less like a choice and more like a responsibility. I synthesized a batch of spores, microscopic, lighter than air, designed to be carried on the humidity currents that flow through the city's ventilation systems. They were coded to activate only in the presence of specific proteins found in natural stone and untreated wood. The old parts of the city, the forgotten statues in the lesser parks, the century-old oak benches that somehow escaped polymer coating, the crumbling brickwork of the old aqueduct system. It would avoid the sterile surfaces. It would seek the history, the texture. One evening, during a system-wide atmospheric flush, I released them from a rooftop near the old city center, a small, invisible puff of dust into the wind. I felt nothing at first, just a hollow sense of dread. What have I done? I went home. I slept. For weeks, nothing happened. The city remained its perfect, beige self. I started to think it had failed, that the spores were inert, filtered out by the very systems I helped design. Perhaps it was for the best. I tried to forget. I focused on my work, designing a new strain of algae that would make the canals even more unnervingly clear. Then the first reports trickled in, not officially, of course, on the back channels, whispers on the public nets, people posting anonymous images, a faint, unexplained luminescence in Meridian Park, a soft glow emanating from the old stone lions guarding the library entrance. The city officials dismissed it. Atmospheric ionization, a rare pollen from the off-world hydroponic farms, solar flare residue. They had an explanation for everything, because in our world, an unexplained event is a system failure. But I knew. I went to Meridian Park that night. I stood across the street, my heart pounding. And I saw it. The base of the old founder statue, the one they never bothered to coat because it was made of granite, was covered in a delicate, silvery filigree. It pulsed with that same gentle, breathing light. It wasn't bright. It was just there. A quiet, impossible secret in the heart of the city. A small crowd had gathered, not a mob, just a few people, standing silently, watching. Their faces, usually illuminated by the harsh overhead lamps, were softened by this strange golden glow from below. They looked different, younger, more curious. I saw a child reach out a hand, hesitating just before touching the light. Her mother didn't pull her away. She just watched, her expression a mixture of confusion and wonder. It was in that moment, seeing that child's face, that I understood what I had done. It wasn't vandalism. It was a gift. A secret I had given to the city, whether it wanted it or not.
I started taking walks. Late at night, when the transit lines were quiet and the air was still, I became a tourist in my own creation. I'd find the spots. A forgotten fountain in a residential block, its stone basin now a bowl of soft, liquid light. The roots of an ancient, stubborn willow tree by the canal, its gnarled wood traced with pulsing golden veins. The city hadn't managed to kill that tree, and now it wore its defiance like a crown. Each new discovery felt like finding a treasure I had hidden from myself. The authorities were growing concerned. The luminescent contamination, as they called it, was spreading. Their reports were clinical, detached. They spoke of an unidentified, non-hazardous, photosensitive microorganism. They deployed scrubber drones and chemical teams. I would watch them from a distance, my stomach in knots. They would arrive in their sterile white vans, cordon off an area, and spray the glowing moss with powerful biocides. And for a night or two, the light would be gone. The stone would be dark and wet. But the spores were too small, too widespread. They were in the air, on the coats of passers-by, on the wings of the few synth birds that still flew. A week later, the glow would return. Fainter at first, then stronger, as if in gentle defiance. It couldn't be stopped. It had become part of the city's biology, a new, unplanned layer of life. The public's reaction was what fascinated me the most. There was no panic. The organism was harmless. The official reports confirmed that. So, in the absence of fear, something else grew. Curiosity. A quiet pilgrimage began. People started seeking out the glowing spots. They became landmarks. Meet me by the shining wall. Let's walk through the golden grove. Lovers would sit on the old benches, not needing a municipal lamps, their faces painted in the soft, breathing light of my moss. Children would lie on the grass and watch it, as if it were a new kind of constellation that had fallen to earth. They didn't know what it was, and in a way, that was the most beautiful part. It was a mystery. In a city where everything was explained, logged, and categorized, here was something that simply was. I remember one night, standing in the shadow of a bridge, watching a small family. A father was showing his daughter how the moss grew brighter if you hummed to it. It wasn't true, of course. The light cycle was metabolic, internally regulated, but the little girl didn't know that. She hummed a simple, childish tune, and her eyes were wide with magic as she imagined the light responding to her song. The father knew it wasn't real, I think, but he let her believe. He wanted her to believe. In that moment, I felt a pang of something, a bittersweet ache. I had created this magic, but I could never be a part of it. I was the architect, forever outside the cathedral. I had to watch through the window as others prayed. My work at the Civic Purity Division became difficult. I was on the team assigned to study and eradicate Athelfix. I would sit in meetings, looking at magnified images of my own creation on the main screen. I listened to my colleagues theorize about its origins. A mutated corporate marker, a dormant alien spore activated by atmospheric changes, sabotage from a rival city-state. They never once considered that it was an inside job. Why would they? Who would do something so pointless, so artistic? I offered suggestions I knew would sail. I misclassified its primary nutrient sources. I was a saboteur in the war against my own child. It was a strange, suspended kind of existence, a life of quiet deception. At work, I was Dr. Vance, committed to restoring the city's sterile perfection. At night, I was a ghost, walking the streets, cataloging the spread of my beautiful, silent rebellion. I think a part of me wanted to be caught, to stand up and say, "It was me. I did it. I gave you back the stars on the ground because you took them from the sky." But I never did. The confession remained a whisper in my own mind. One evening, my supervisor cornered me. He's a good man, stern but fair. He thinks in straight lines, in data points. He looked tired. "Vance, this luminescent anomaly, it's adapting faster than our models can predict. It's almost as if it's intelligent." I just nodded, my expression carefully neutral. "The algorithms can't keep up. It's an unconventional biological matrix." He stared out the window at the city below, where, even from our high floor, you could see a few faint pulsing patches in the darker parks. "People like it," he said, almost to himself. "Productivity reports show a slight increase in civic morale. Anxiety indices are down in the districts where it's most prevalent. They're calling it star moss." I hadn't heard that name before. Star moss. It was better than Athelfex. It was a name given by the people who loved it. "It's still an unauthorized contaminant," I said, my voice betraying nothing. It was the correct, professional response. "Yes," he said, turning back to me. "Of course, an unauthorized contaminant." But there was something in his eyes, a flicker of something other than frustration. Maybe it was resignation, or maybe, just maybe, it was a little bit of wonder. He didn't fire me then, but the walls were closing in. I was leaving a trail of flawed data and failed strategies. Sooner or later, someone would connect the dots. Someone would look at the elegant, impossibly complex gene splice at the heart of the star moss and realize it wasn't an accident. They would look for an artist, and my signature was all over it.
The end came quietly, not with an arrest, but with a data flag, an algorithm I had overlooked, one that cross-referenced lab supply requisitions with unscheduled network access. It found me. It didn't accuse, it just presented the anomaly. My file was flagged for review, a single, blinking red icon next to my name. I knew what it meant. I had maybe a day, 2 at most, before a human analyst looked at the same data and understood. I didn't panic. I felt calm, resigned. That night, I didn't go home. I took my final walk. The city felt different, knowing I was seeing it for the last time as a free person. The star moss was more widespread than I had realized. It had crossed the river. It was appearing in the newer districts now, finding the cracks in the polished chrome and plastisteel facades. It was a testament to life's stubbornness. I went to the observatory hill, the highest point in the city. From there, you could see the whole urban sprawl laid out like a circuit board. The rigid grid of lights, the perfect, unvarying glow of the municipal systems. But now, there was something else. Dotted across the grid, like rogue pixels, were soft, pulsing islands of golden light. In the parks, along the canals, in the dark spaces between the towering arcologies, it looked like the city had developed a second, secret nervous system, a network of dreams. It was no longer just my creation. It had been adopted. It had a life, a name, a place in the hearts of strangers. It would outlive my career, my freedom, my name. I found a bench near the summit, one of the old wooden ones.
And of course, there it was. A delicate patch of star moss growing along its armrest, pulsing softly in the cool night air. I reached out and touched it. For the very first time, I had always kept my distance, afraid of leaving a trace, of being connected to it. But now, it didn't matter. The texture was cool and velvety. The light seemed to warm slightly under my fingertips. Or maybe I just imagined it did. I sat there for a long time, my hand resting on its gentle light. I thought about my life, about the sterile, predictable world we had built, and the small, chaotic piece of beauty I had released into it. Was it worth it? To trade a life of comfort and prestige for this? For a glow on a park bench? The question answered itself. I looked down at the city, no longer a perfect grid, but a place of flawed, unpredictable beauty, a place with secrets again. I had given it a ghost, a friendly one. My legacy wouldn't be in the civic archives or on a plaque. It would be in a whispered story from a father to a daughter. It would be in a moment of quiet awe for a stranger on a late-night walk. It would be in the soft light that made the cold city feel, just for a moment, a little more like a home. This recording is my confession. I am leaving it on a public data node, encrypted to release in 50 years. By then, the star moss will be everywhere. It will be so much a part of the city that no one will remember a time before it. It will be as natural as the rain we no longer have. They will have forgotten its origin. They will have forgotten me. And that's as it should be. The artist should never be more important than the art. My name is Alara Vance, and I am a bio-vandal. I am the mother of the star moss. I regret nothing. I am turning myself in tomorrow morning. I think I will ask for a cell with a window, facing the park. I want to watch my garden grow. The light on this recorder is blinking. It's almost out of power. It feels fitting. One light for another. I hope they hum for it. I hope they never stop telling stories about the stars that fell to Earth and decided to stay.
Disclaimer: all stories shared on this channel are entirely fictional. They are created to inspire imagination, reflection, and thoughtful dialogue about the future, our relationships, and the human experience.
Confession saved. Disconnecting signal.